Have you ever looked at someone who achieved something extraordinary and thought to yourself, they must have known they would succeed. They must have had some kind of guarantee. They must have had connections, talent, or luck that I don't have. What if I told you that most of the people who achieve remarkable things in life started with absolutely no evidence that they would succeed? What if I told you that before the world called them visionaries, it called them delusional? That before they were praised, they were laughed at. That before they were admired, they were dismissed. And what if the single most important factor separating those who achieve extraordinary things from those who don't isn't talent, intelligence, or even luck, but the willingness to believe in a future that doesn't exist yet? Welcome to Mind Goals. Today, we're going to explore one of the most misunderstood concepts in psychology and personal development: the concept of being delusional enough to win. And before you dismiss this, understand this. We're not talking about ignoring reality. We're not talking about self-deception. We're talking about a specific kind of mental framework that allows you to persist when everyone else quits. We're talking about the courage to commit to a vision long before the evidence arrives. We're talking about what Niccolò Machiavelli, one of history's most brilliant strategic minds, understood about power, perception, and preparation. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why the most successful people on Earth are often called crazy before they're called geniuses, and how you can use this principle to transform your own life. Let's begin. The truth about extraordinary success. Think about the most ambitious goal you've ever had. Now ask yourself honestly, how long did you pursue it? When did you stop? What made you quit? For most people, the answer is simple. They quit the moment reality didn't match their expectations. They quit when they faced the first rejection. They quit when someone laughed at their idea. They quit when the paycheck didn't arrive fast enough. They quit when the evidence suggested they might fail. But here's the brutal truth. Success rarely arrives on your timeline. It rarely looks the way you expected. And it almost never arrives with an advance warning. The people who achieve remarkable things in life have one thing in common. They don't quit because the evidence hasn't arrived yet. They don't quit because other people can't see what they see. They don't quit because the timeline is longer than they hoped. They understand something that most people don't. They understand that belief is not a response to evidence. Belief is the engine that creates evidence. The architect sees the building before the foundation is dug. The author sees the book before a single page is written. The entrepreneur sees the company before the first customer. The athlete sees the championship before the first practice. This isn't delusion in the clinical sense. This is strategic vision. This is psychological fortitude. This is what psychologists call self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to execute the actions needed to achieve a goal. Albert Bandura, one of the most influential psychologists in history, demonstrated that people with high self-efficacy set more challenging goals, persist longer in the face of setbacks, and achieve more than those with low self-efficacy, regardless of their actual talent. Think about that. Your belief in yourself is often more important than your actual ability. Because belief drives action, and action creates results, and results create evidence, and evidence creates reality. But here's the challenge. The world is not designed to support your belief in yourself. The world is designed to make you doubt yourself. Let's talk about why that happens. Why most people give up too soon. You've probably experienced this. You get excited about a new project, a new business, a new fitness routine, a new creative pursuit. You're filled with energy. You believe this time will be different. And then reality hits. The progress is slower than you imagined. The results don't come as quickly as you hoped. Someone close to you says, "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Your bank account reminds you that you need to be practical. And gradually, you stop. You tell yourself you'll start again tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. And eventually, the dream gets filed away in a mental drawer labeled "maybe another time." Why does this happen? Because most people operate on a flawed premise. They believe they need to see results before they can believe. They believe they need evidence before they can commit. They believe they need permission before they can act. And this is exactly backward. Psychologists call this the locus of control. People with an internal locus of control believe their actions determine their outcomes. People with an external locus of control believe external forces, luck, fate, other people, determine their outcomes. Research shows that people with an internal locus of control are more successful, happier, and more resilient. But here's the question. Where does this internal locus come from? It doesn't come from success. It comes from the willingness to act in the absence of guaranteed success. Think about the process of learning to walk. A toddler doesn't have evidence that they can walk. They see adults doing it, but they have no proof they can do it themselves. They don't have a results-first, belief-later approach. They try. They fall. They try again. They fall again. They try again. And eventually, they walk. Now ask yourself, when did you stop believing in yourself like that? When did you start needing evidence before you acted? When did you start fearing failure more than you desired success? The answer is, society taught you to. Other people's doubts became your doubts. Other people's fears became your fears. Other people's limitations became your limitations. And that's exactly what we're going to break today. The hidden power of bold self-belief. Here's something remarkable. Throughout history, nearly every person who achieved something significant was called something before they were celebrated. They were called crazy. They were called reckless. They were called delusional. The Wright brothers were told that human flight was impossible. They were called fools by the world's leading scientists. They didn't have evidence. They had belief. Steve Jobs was told that people didn't want computers in their homes. He didn't have evidence. He had belief. Marie Curie was told that women couldn't be scientists. She didn't have evidence. She had belief. Martin Luther King Jr. was told that racial equality would never happen. He didn't have evidence. He had belief. Notice the pattern. Every achievement in human history began with someone believing in something that didn't yet exist. Every building began with someone imagining it. Every company began with someone dreaming it. Every movement began with someone envisioning it. But here's the part most people miss. These people didn't just believe. They acted. They worked. They failed. They learned. They adapted. And they kept believing, not because the evidence supported them, but because they understood that evidence follows action, not the other way around. Let me ask you something. What would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail? Now forget that question. Here's a better one. What would you attempt if you knew you might fail, but that failure wouldn't stop you? Because that's the real question. Extraordinary people don't believe they won't fail. Extraordinary people believe they will learn from failure. They understand something that most people don't. Every successful person has a catalog of failures. But they didn't stop believing. They kept acting. They kept learning. They kept adapting. They kept going. And now, Let's examine what Niccolò Machiavelli, one of history's most strategic thinkers, would say about all of this. What Machiavelli can teach about courage, preparation, and perception. Let's travel back to 16th century Italy. Niccolò Machiavelli was a diplomat, political philosopher, historian, playwright, poet, and romantic comedic writer. He's best known for his book, The Prince, a guide on how to acquire and maintain political power. But more than anything, Machiavelli understood something profound about human nature. He understood that in many ways, perception precedes reality. He argued that a leader must not only be effective, but must also appear effective. But he didn't mean this in a superficial or manipulative way. He meant that belief, both in yourself and from others, shapes outcomes. Machiavelli wrote extensively about fortune and virtue. In his thinking, fortune represented the external forces, fate, luck, circumstances that you cannot control. Virtue represented your own capabilities, courage, intelligence, discipline, and preparation. Here's the key insight. Machiavelli believed that fortune favors the bold. He believed that those who take decisive action, even when the outcome is uncertain, are more likely to succeed than those who wait for certainty. You see, Machiavelli understood that waiting for certainty is a guarantee of mediocrity. Because in the real world, certainty doesn't exist. Everything involves risk. Everything involves uncertainty. Everything involves the possibility of failure. The question is not, will I succeed? The question is, am I willing to take the risk? And this is where Machiavelli's ideas about preparation become crucial. He believed that you don't just take risks blindly. You prepare relentlessly. You study. You plan. You train. You anticipate obstacles. You develop the skills you need. Here's the formula Machiavelli would give you today. And here's something fascinating. Machiavelli lived during the Renaissance, a period of unprecedented human creativity and achievement. He was surrounded by people who were doing things that had never been done before. Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel. Da Vinci created inventions that wouldn't be built for centuries. Galileo looked at the heavens and saw truth that defied centuries of belief. These people weren't delusional. They were visionaries. But to the outside world, to those who didn't understand what they were doing, they must have seemed impossible, unrealistic, crazy. And that's exactly the point. What is called delusion today is often called vision tomorrow. Now let's break this down into 5 specific principles you can apply. Principle 1. Believe before you see results. Here's the first principle. Most people operate on a result-based belief system. They say, I'll believe when I see results. I'll commit when I know it's working. I'll invest when I see the returns. This is the worst approach to achieving anything significant. Think about farming. A farmer plants a seed. They water it. They fertilize it. They protect it from pests. They wait for the weather. They do all of this long before they see the fruit. If the farmer waited to see the fruit before they planted the seed, there would never be any fruit. You have to plant the seed of belief before you see the harvest of results. And here's the psychological truth. Belief creates action. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates results. Results create evidence. And evidence confirms what you believed from the beginning. Do you understand what this means? It means the gap between belief and evidence is filled by action. You don't wait for the evidence before you act. You act and the evidence follows. Here's your question. What would you start doing right now if you knew, absolutely knew, that if you kept going, you'd eventually succeed? Now answer this. Why aren't you doing it? Is it because there's no evidence? Or is it because you're scared to act without evidence? Principle 2. Stop seeking permission. Here's the second principle. How many dreams have you abandoned because someone didn't approve? How many ideas have you dismissed because someone said they wouldn't work? How many opportunities have you missed because you were waiting for permission? Here's something you need to understand. The critics, the skeptics, the naysayers, they haven't done what you're trying to do. They don't understand what it takes. They're operating from fear, not from experience. Winston Churchill said, "You have enemies, good. That means you've stood up for something sometime in your life." But here's the harder truth. Sometimes your enemies are the people closest to you. The people who love you. The people who are scared for you. The people who want to protect you. They're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to protect you. But protection and progress are not the same thing. Here's what you need to know. The people who love you the most are sometimes the worst judges of what you can achieve. Because they judge you based on who you have been, not on who you can become. Stop asking for permission to live your life. Stop waiting for approval to pursue your dreams. Stop needing external validation to take action. Your belief in yourself is the only permission you need. Now, let's talk about what to do when the world laughs at your vision. Principle 3. Turn criticism into fuel. Here's the third principle. Criticism is not just inevitable. Criticism is information. Let me explain. There are two kinds of criticism. One, constructive criticism from people who have experience and expertise in what you're doing. This is valuable. Learn from it. 2, destructive criticism from people who have no idea what they're talking about. This is noise. Ignore it. But there's a third kind. Criticism that comes from people who are threatened by your ambition. People who see in you the potential they never had. People who are uncomfortable because your courage highlights their fear. Here's what to do with that kind of criticism. Use it as fuel. When someone says you can't do something, ask yourself, why are they so invested in my failure? Often the answer is, because your success would expose their excuses. When you pursue something significant, you make other people uncomfortable, because you remind them that they could be doing more with their lives. And that discomfort often comes out as criticism. So here's what you do. You take that criticism, you convert it into energy, and you channel that energy into the work that will prove them wrong. But not out of spite, because their opinion doesn't matter. You prove them wrong for yourself, because you know who you are, and you know what you're becoming. The greatest response to criticism is indifference and execution. Now, let's talk about how to build the discipline that matches your vision. Principle 4. Build discipline that matches your vision. Music rhythmic focused. Here's the fourth principle. Here's where most people get it wrong. They have a big vision. They have a powerful dream, but they don't have the discipline to match it. Vision without discipline is fantasy. Belief without action is delusion. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote extensively about the importance of preparation. He believed that leaders don't just believe they will succeed. They prepare to succeed. Do you understand what this means? When you prepare, when you study, when you practice, when you build skills, when you work while others rest, you are demonstrating your belief. You are proving to yourself that you mean it. Let me give you the formula for disciplined belief. Belief right arrow discipline right arrow action right arrow results right arrow evidence right arrow stronger belief. Notice something crucial. The cycle starts with belief, but it doesn't stay at belief. It moves to discipline, to action, to results. So here's the question. What is your daily discipline telling you? Are you waking up early enough? Are you working when you don't feel like it? Are you practicing when no one is watching? Are you investing in your skills? Are you making the sacrifices that success requires? Because if your discipline doesn't match your vision, then your vision isn't a vision. It's a wish. And wishes don't become reality without work. Now let's talk about the fifth principle. Principle 5. Keep adapting without abandoning your goal. Here's the fifth principle. This is where many people get confused. They think that if they need to change their approach, they were wrong about their goal. Your goal can remain unchanged while your methods evolve. Machiavelli understood this. He recognized that the world changes constantly. Leaders who succeed are those who hold their vision, adapt their strategy, learn from failure, keep moving forward. Here's the truth. Success rarely comes from the first attempt. Success comes from the 100th attempt. But the 100th attempt is only possible if you keep the goal, adapt the strategy, never stop believing. What do you do when something isn't working? Do you give up? Or do you try a different way? Listen carefully. Belief doesn't mean you know exactly how it will happen. Belief means you know it will happen, and you're willing to find the path. This is the wisdom that separates those who achieve from those who don't. The wisdom that allows you to persist when others quit. Now, let's bring all of this together. The identity shift that changes everything. All of these principles lead to one thing: an identity shift. You are not trying to achieve a goal. You are becoming a person. The person who succeeds in a big way is not the same person who started. They have grown. They have evolved. They have developed resilience. They have built discipline. They have learned to believe. Do you understand? The journey is not just about the destination. The journey is about who you become along the way. When you look back at your life, what do you want to see? A person who played it safe. A person who followed the crowd. A person who let other people's doubts become their reality. Or a person who believed in themselves. A person who took risks. A person who adapted and persisted. A person who achieved something significant, not because it was easy, but because they refused to quit. Practical steps you can apply today. So what do you do now? Let's make this practical. Step 1. Write down one ambitious goal. Not a small goal, not a safe goal. Something that would completely transform your life. Something that feels delusional to your current self. Step 2. Visualize success. Spend 5 minutes every day seeing yourself achieving this goal. But don't stop at seeing it. Feel it. Feel the accomplishment. Feel the satisfaction. Feel the transformation. Step 3. Take one action today. Not next week. Today. One small action that moves you toward your goal. One phone call. One paragraph written. 1 mile run. One customer contacted. Step 4. Identify the critics. Write down who doubts you. Then write down why their opinion doesn't matter. Most critics have never done what you're trying to do. Their judgment is irrelevant. Step 5. Commit to reflection. Every week, review your progress. Celebrate your wins. Learn from your losses. Adjust your strategy. Never abandon your goal. This is how you do it. This is how you bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Powerful conclusion. So let me leave you with this. The world will always tell you to be reasonable. The world will always tell you to be realistic. The world will always tell you to be practical. But the greatest achievements in human history belong to people who refuse to be bound by reasonable, who refuse to accept realistic, who refuse to be limited by practical. These people were called delusional. They were called crazy. They were told to give up. They were told they were wasting their time. But they had something that the world didn't understand. They had vision. They had belief. They had preparation. They had discipline. They had adaptability. And they had something else. They had the courage to act before the evidence arrived. What is the vision that you've been hiding? What is the dream that you've been protecting? What is the goal that you've been too scared to pursue? And what could your life become if you believed in yourself enough to keep going? The evidence will arrive. The results will come. But only if you believe first. Only if you act first. Only if you persist first. Because that's the secret that the world doesn't want you to know. Bold belief, combined with disciplined action, constant learning, and relentless persistence, doesn't just predict success. It creates it. If this video inspired you, if you're ready to think bigger and refuse to quit, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because here at Mind Goals, we believe that you are capable of more than you know. And we're here to help you unlock that potential. Comment below with one thing you're going to start believing in today, even if the evidence isn't there yet. I want to see your delusional vision.